Sir, hold up. I need to ask you something.
Okay, what's going on, officer?
Whose child is that?
She's my daughter.
That's your kid?
Yes, I can show you my ID if you...
Don't reach for anything. Keep your hands where I can see them. You expect me to believe you're her dad? Look at you. Look at her.
So she's my daughter.
Then explain this. Where did you get her from?
I'm not asking again.
The first thing Rose noticed was the voice. Not the geese honking by the pond, not the joggers passing with their dogs, not even the distant laughter from the playground behind them. It was the tone, sharp, cold, laced with authority that didn't ask. It accused. She didn't understand what the words meant yet, but she knew something was wrong because that voice belonged to a police officer, and it was aimed at her father. Her small fingers squeezed Teriq Hernandez's hand instantly. Instinct, confusion, fear all tangled together. "Daddy, why is he looking at us like that?" Teriq didn't answer right away because he was still trying to understand how a perfect Sunday ritual had turned into this. 20 minutes earlier, they'd been laughing about the ducks fighting over breadcrumbs. 10 minutes earlier, Rose had convinced him to race her down the path. She'd won barely. Now, a patrol car sat parked on the curb behind them. An officer stood blocking their path forward, and suspicion hung in the February air like fog. Heavy, ugly, unfounded. Teriq kept both hands visible, one holding Rose's, the other relaxed at his side, the way he'd been taught long before he ever became a father, long before he thought he'd have to teach his daughter the same lessons. "Officer," he said evenly, "is there a problem?" The cop, badge reading highs, didn't answer directly. His eyes moved from Teriq's face down to Rose. Blonde hair pulled into a ponytail. Light skin, purple jacket, then back up to Teriq. Dark beard, broad frame, grey hoodie layered under a jacket. The contrast in the officer's mind had already written a narrative before a single fact was verified. "Whose kid is that?" Officer Hayes demanded. Teriq blinked once. "She's mine." The officer's expression didn't soften. If anything, it sharpened. "Yeah?" he said slowly. "Yours?" "Yes." Rose looked up at her father, confused. She could feel the shift in the air. Kids always could. Officer Hayes stepped closer. Too close. "How do you know her?" Teriq frowned slightly. "I'm sorry." "You heard me," Hayes said, voice edging toward impatience. "How do you know this child?" The word child came out like evidence, like accusation, like she was a possession, not a person. Teriq inhaled slowly, forcing calm into every syllable. "She's my daughter." Hayes let out a short breath, not quite a laugh, but close, humorless, disbelieving. "I don't think so." Phones were already starting to lift around the park. A jogger slowed to a stop. A woman with a stroller pulled hers out instinctively. Tone alone told bystanders this wasn't routine questioning. This was escalation. If you're watching, drop a comment below. Let's see how many people recognize what's happening here. Teriq kept his posture calm, his voice steady. "Officer, you're mistaken. Her name is Rose Hernandez. I'm her father." Hayes circled them now, eyes scanning like he was gathering evidence for a case already half-written in his head. "Rose Hernandez, huh?" He crouched suddenly to her level, his voice shifting, gentler but still probing. "Hey, sweetheart, what's your name?" "Rose," she said quietly, pressing closer to Teriq's leg. "Rose what?" "Hernandez." The officer nodded slowly, but suspicion stayed cemented on his face. He stood again, eyes back on Teriq. "You got ID?" "Yes." "Let me see it." Teriq moved slowly, reaching toward his back pocket. "Slow," Hayes snapped instantly, his hand drifting toward his belt. Teriq froze mid-motion, then moved even slower, pulling out his wallet, extracting his driver's license and extending it with 2 fingers. Hayes took it, studied it, looked at Rose, looked at Teriq, back at the license. Last names matched. Still, he didn't believe it. "You got proof?" Hayes asked. "Proof of what?" "That she's yours." Teriq exhaled carefully. "Officer, we're at the park. I didn't bring her birth certificate to go for a walk." "I didn't ask where you were," Hayes shot back. "I asked for proof." Rose tugged on Teriq's jacket. "Daddy, I want to go home." He knelt beside her, his voice soft. "It's okay, Rosie. We will. Just give Daddy a minute, okay?" "Stand up," the officer's voice cut in again. Teriq rose slowly, positioning himself slightly between Hayes and Rose. "Where's the mother?" Hayes asked. "At work." "Doing what?" "She's a nurse at Metro Health." The officer's lip curled slightly. "Uh-huh." That tone again, disbelief wrapped in insinuation. "You expect me to believe," Hayes said, louder now, gesturing between them, "that this little girl is yours?" "Yes," Teriq said firmly. "Look at her. Look at you." There it was, open, unfiltered, ugly. "She's biracial," Teriq said, voice controlled but tight. "Her mother is white," Hayes scoffed. "You people always got an explanation ready." A gasp came from someone nearby, an older woman on a bench. A man in running gear stopped mid-stride, watching. Teriq's jaw clenched, first visible crack in his composure. "That's not an explanation. That's my family." Officer Hayes stepped even closer. "Turn around." Teriq blinked. "For what?" "Suspicion of child abduction." The words detonated across Edgewater Park. Parents stopped mid-conversation. Joggers froze. Phones rose higher. Someone muttered, "Oh my God." Teriq felt Rose latch onto his leg instantly, her voice breaking into a scream. "He's my daddy," she cried. "Stop! That's my daddy." Officer Hayes ignored her completely. "Turn around," he repeated and grabbed Teriq's arm. Rough, unnecessary, final. Moments earlier, none of this had existed. No tension, no fear, no cameras. Just a father and daughter walking the winding path through Edgewater Park, debating the most important question of the afternoon. Ice cream flavors. "Strawberry, Daddy," Rose insisted, skipping beside him. "It's pink and it tastes like summer." Teriq laughed. "Summer? Rosie, it's February. We need chocolate. Chocolate is always the right answer." "Nuh-uh, strawberry." "Chocolate. Strawberry." He grinned down at her, squeezing her hand. "We'll get both. Deal?" "Deal!" She beamed, swinging their joined hands as they walked. The park was perfect that afternoon. Crisp but not cold. Sunlight filtering through bare branches. Joggers moved along the path in steady rhythm. A couple walked their golden retriever near the pond. Families spread out on benches, soaking in the rare winter warmth. It was peaceful. Normal. Safe. Then the patrol car appeared. Teriq noticed it first. A slow roll along the park road, moving parallel to the path. Not speeding, not responding to anything. Just watching. His stomach tightened instinctively, that old familiar knot he'd learned to recognize years ago. The one that came with being watched for no reason other than existing in a space someone else decided you didn't belong. The car slowed further, then stopped. Rose didn't notice. She was still talking about ice cream, about the ducks they'd seen earlier, about whether they could come back next Sunday. But Teriq's focus had shifted entirely. He watched as the driver's side door opened, watched as Officer Rick Hayes stepped out, adjusting his belt, his eyes already locked on them. Not scanning the park, not observing the area. Locked. On them. Teriq felt his breath tighten. He'd been here before, pulled over for matching a description, followed through grocery stores, watched in coffee shops, the sudden scrutiny, the unspoken accusation that hung in the air before a single word was spoken. He knew the script by heart, but never, never with his daughter present. Hayes started walking toward them, his gait purposeful, his expression already hardened into something beyond curiosity. This wasn't a friendly check-in. This wasn't community policing. This was suspicion dressed in a uniform. Rose finally noticed. "Daddy, why is that policeman coming over here?" Teriq's hand tightened around hers. "I don't know, baby, but it's okay. Just stay close to me." But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. Hayes closed the distance quickly, his boots crunching against the gravel path. His hand rested on his belt, not threatening yet, but positioned. Ready. "Afternoon," he said, voice clipped. "Can I ask what you're doing here?" Teriq kept his tone even, polite, controlled. "Just walking with my daughter. Is there a problem, officer?" Hayes' eyes flicked down to Rose, lingered there for a beat too long, then back up to Teriq. "Your daughter?" The skepticism wasn't subtle. It hung in the air like smoke. "Yes," Teriq said carefully. "My daughter." He glanced down. "Rose, Say hi to the officer." Rose, suddenly shy under the scrutiny, gave a small, uncertain wave. Her fingers stayed wrapped around Teriq's hand. Teriq reached slowly for his back pocket. "I have my ID if you need—" "I'm going to need to see that," Hayes interrupted, stepping closer. Teriq pulled out his wallet, extracted his driver's license, and handed it over. Hayes took it without a word, studying it with the kind of intensity reserved for suspects, not citizens. His eyes moved from the photo to Teriq's face, then down to Rose again, back to the license. "Teriq Hernandez," Hayes read aloud, as if testing the name for authenticity. He looked at Rose once more, her blonde hair, her light skin, her purple jacket, then back at Teriq. "This doesn't prove she's your daughter." Teriq's jaw tightened. He could feel the conversation shifting, sliding away from reason and into something uglier. "Officer, we live 10 minutes from here. Her mother is at work. What exactly is the issue?" Hayes' tone hardened, his posture squaring up. "The issue is I need to verify this child's safety. You understand that, don't you?" The words were phrased like a question, but they weren't. They were an accusation wrapped in procedure. "She's safe," Teriq said, voice firm but still controlled. "She's with her father. We're taking a walk. That's it." "Uh-huh." Hayes didn't sound convinced. He held onto the ID, didn't hand it back. "Where's the mother right now?" "I told you. At work." "Where does she work?" "Metro Health. She's a nurse." Hayes tilted his head slightly. "You got a way to prove that?" Teriq blinked. "Prove that my wife is a nurse. Prove she's the mother. Prove this is your kid." Rose looked up at her father, confusion and worry creasing her small face. "Daddy?" Teriq's heart hammered, but he kept his voice calm for her sake. "It's okay, Rosie." It wasn't okay. Hayes stepped even closer now, invading the space between them. "I'm going to need you to stay right here while I make some calls. Don't move." Teriq's stomach dropped. This wasn't a conversation anymore. This was an investigation, and he was the suspect. "I'm going to need you to step away from the child, sir." The words landed like a punch. Teriq's heart hammered against his ribs as Hayes' hand moved deliberately toward the handcuffs on his belt. "Officer, you're scaring her. Please, step away from the child. Now." The command was sharp, final, and completely unhinged from reality. Rose's eyes went wide with terror. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the threat. "Daddy!" She clutched his leg with both arms, pressing her face against his jeans. Hayes moved closer, his body language shifting into enforcement mode. "Sir, if you don't comply, I will detain you." Teriq's mind raced. Every instinct screamed at him to protect his daughter, but he knew that any sudden movement, any perceived resistance could make this so much worse. He raised his hands slowly, palms out, trying to project calm even as panic clawed at his chest. "You're making a mistake," Teriq said, voice steady but urgent. "Call her mother. Call anyone. Just don't—" The handcuffs came out. Metal glinted in the afternoon sun as Hayes grabbed Teriq's wrist and wrenched it behind his back. The click was sharp, cold, final. Then the other wrist. Another click. Rose screamed, not a cry, not a whimper. A scream, raw, primal, the kind of sound that tore through the park and froze everyone within earshot. "Daddy! No! That's my daddy!" She lunged toward him, small hands reaching, but Hayes stepped between them, his body a wall. "Stay back, sweetheart. It's okay. We're just—" "Let him go!" Rose shrieked, tears streaming down her face. "He didn't do anything. That's my daddy." Hayes ignored her completely. He lifted his radio to his mouth, voice calm and procedural, as if a 6-year-old wasn't sobbing 3 feet away. "Dispatch, this is Unit 47. I need backup at Edgewater Park, east entrance near the pond. Possible child abduction in progress. 1 adult male in custody. Child on scene." The words echoed across the park. Abduction? Custody? Joggers stopped mid-stride. A woman on a bench stood up, phone already in her hand. A man near the playground pulled out his camera and started recording. Teriq stood with his hands cuffed behind him, his daughter screaming for him, and a police officer treating him like a criminal. All because he was a black man. walking with his white daughter in a park. On a Sunday afternoon, the park had gone quiet except for Rose's sobs. People stopped. Movement ceased. A jogger in neon yellow froze mid-stride, earbuds dangling. A woman with a stroller pulled out her phone and raised it, screen glowing. An older man near the picnic table stood up, face twisted in confusion. "What's going on over there?" he called out. Hayes shot him a warning glare. "This is police business. Stay back." But the phones were already out. 3 at first, then 5, then 8. A semicircle of witnesses forming around the scene, recording everything. The handcuffs, the crying child, the black man standing calm and restrained while a white officer held him like a criminal. Rose sobbed hysterically, her small body shaking. "That's my daddy. Let him go, please." Teriq's chest ached. He wanted to hold her, to tell her it would be okay, but his hands were locked behind his back. He forced his voice to stay steady, calm, for her sake. "Rose, baby, it's okay. Daddy's okay." He raised his voice slightly, addressing the crowd. "Can someone please call my wife? Her number is 216555. "Sir, you need to stop talking," Hayes snapped, stepping closer. A young black woman in the crowd, maybe mid-20s, lowered her phone just enough to shout, "He's telling you she's his daughter. Why are you doing this?" Hayes's face reddened, his jaw clenched. "If you interfere with this investigation, you'll be detained too." The threat hung in the air, but the woman didn't move. Neither did anyone else. If anything, more phones rose, more people stopped. A man in a Cavaliers hoodie muttered, "This is messed up." Someone else said, "Are you kidding me right now?" The audience was growing, and they were watching everything. Hayes keyed his radio again. "Dispatch, ETA on that backup." 3 minutes out, came the static-filled reply. 3 minutes. Rose collapsed to her knees on the pavement, sobbing into her hands, and Teriq could do nothing but stand there and watch. The second patrol car rolled up fast, lights flashing but no siren. The door opened and Officer Denise Palmer stepped out, her eyes immediately scanning the scene, the crying child on the pavement, the handcuffed black man standing perfectly still, the semicircle of bystanders with phones raised like shields. Her expression shifted, confusion first, then concern. Hayes walked over quickly, voice low but audible to anyone close enough. "Black male, white female child, claims to be the father but can't prove it. Possible abduction." Palmer's gaze moved from Hayes to Rose, still sobbing, her small voice breaking. "Daddy, please." "She's calling him Daddy, Rick," Palmer said quietly. Hayes didn't miss a beat. "Kids can be coached." Palmer's jaw tightened slightly. She didn't look convinced, but after a moment she nodded. "What do you need?" "Help me get him in the car. We'll sort this out at the station." Teriq's voice cut through, calm but edged with urgency. "Officer Palmer, please." He held her gaze. "Look at my ID. My last name is Hernandez. Her name is Rose Hernandez. We live 10 minutes from here. Call my wife. Her number is 2165550347. Palmer hesitated, glancing at the ID still in Hayes's hand. Teriq pressed on. "This is racial profiling, and you know it." The words hung in the air like an indictment. Palmer's eyes flicked to the crowd, the cameras, the little girl collapsing into sobs again. She opened her mouth as if to say something, then closed it. Hayes stepped forward. "Let's go. Now." Palmer exhaled slowly, then moved toward Teriq's other side. The crowd murmured. Someone shouted, "This is wrong." Another voice, "You're arresting him for walking with his kid?" But the officers didn't stop. They guided Teriq toward the patrol car, and Rose screamed louder. A silver sedan screeched into the parking lot, tires protesting against asphalt. The door flew open before the car fully stopped, and a white woman in navy blue nurse's scrubs sprinted toward the scene, her face twisted with fury and panic. "What the hell is happening?" Her voice cut across the park like a siren. Rose's head snapped up. "Mommy!" She tore away from Palmer's loose grip and ran, stumbling slightly, arms outstretched. The woman, Sarah Hernandez, dropped to her knees and caught her, scooping her up in one fluid motion. Rose buried her face in her mother's neck, sobbing. Mommy, they took Daddy. They put handcuffs on him. Sarah's eyes found Teriq immediately, hands cuffed behind his back, flanked by 2 officers standing near the patrol car. Her expression hardened into something fierce. She stood, holding Rose on her hip, and marched straight toward Hayes. "That's my husband," she said, voice shaking with controlled rage. "What are you doing to him?" Hayes blinked, visibly thrown. His mouth opened, closed. "Ma'am, we were investigating." "Investigating what?" Sarah's voice rose, sharp and clear enough for everyone to hear. "A black man walking with his own daughter?" the crowd murmured. Heads nodded. Someone shouted, "This is ridiculous." Another voice, "Let him go." Hayes' face reddened. "Ma'am, we had reasonable suspicion." "Reasonable?" Sarah's laugh was bitter, disbelieving. "You saw a black man with a white child and assumed he was a kidnapper. That's not reasonable. That's racist." The word landed like a grenade. Palmer shifted uncomfortably. Hayes' jaw clenched. Sarah turned to Teriq, her eyes softening for just a moment. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Teriq said quietly. "Just get Rose out of here." "I'm not going anywhere," Sarah snapped, turning back to Hayes. "Not until you uncuff my husband." Sarah pulled out her phone with shaking hands, swiping through screens with furious precision. "Here's Rose's birth certificate," she said, thrusting the phone toward Hayes. "See that? Rose Marie Hernandez, born March 14th, 2019. Mother, Sarah Hernandez. Father, Teriq Hernandez." She swiped again. "Here are our wedding photos. That's us. That's our family." Another swipe. "Here's her passport. See? Hernandez. Same last name." Her voice trembled with barely contained rage. "You want our family Christmas card too? Maybe a DNA test while we're at it?" Hayes stared at the screen, his expression unreadable. Palmer stepped forward, leaning in to look at the documents. Her eyes moved from the birth certificate to the photos to Rose, then to Teriq. She turned to Hayes, her voice low but firm. "Rick, we need to uncuff him." Hayes' face was stone. "We were acting on reasonable suspicion." "Reasonable?" Sarah's voice cracked, years of suppressed fear and frustration spilling out. "You saw a black man with a white child and assumed he was a kidnapper. That's not reasonable. That's racist." The word echoed across the park. The phones kept recording. Every word, every moment, every second of this unraveling. Hayes' jaw worked. His hand hovered near the handcuff keys on his belt, but he didn't move. Palmer looked at him, then at the crowd, then back at the phone still thrust toward them. "Rick, now!" Teriq stood silently through it all, his eyes locked on Rose. She clung to her mother's shoulder, her small face red and streaked with tears, watching her father with confusion and fear. He wanted to tell her it was okay, but how could he, when even he didn't believe it anymore? A third vehicle pulled up, a black SUV with a supervisor's insignia on the side. The door opened and Sergeant Maria Cortez stepped out, her uniform crisp, her expression hard as stone as she took in the scene. The crowd, the cameras, the crying child, the handcuffed man. "What's the situation?" Her voice cut through the tension like a blade. Hayes turned toward her, straightening. "Sergeant, we responded to a possible—" "Officer Palmer," Cortez interrupted, her eyes never leaving Teriq. "What's the situation?" Palmer hesitated, glancing at Hayes, then stepped forward. "The man's wife just arrived with documentation proving he's the father. Birth certificate, wedding photos, passport. Everything checks out." Cortez's gaze moved slowly across the scene, the phone still recording, the crowd watching in tense silence, Sarah holding Rose, and Teriq standing perfectly still with his hands cuffed behind his back. Her jaw tightened. "Uncuff him," she said flatly. "Now." Hayes started to protest. "Sergeant, protocol says we had reasonable—" Cortez turned on him, her voice ice cold. "Protocol says you verify before you detain. Did you run his ID?" Silence. "Did you call the mother?" Hayes' mouth opened. Nothing came out. "Did you do anything," Cortez continued, her voice rising slightly, "besides see a black man with a white child and jump to conclusions?" The silence was deafening. Cortez pointed at the handcuffs. "Take them off." Hayes' face flushed, but he moved forward, pulling the keys from his belt. The metal clicked open, and Teriq's hands were finally free. He rubbed his wrists slowly, his eyes immediately finding Rose. Cortez turned to Sarah and Teriq, her expression softening just slightly. "Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez, I apologize for what just happened here." Teriq's voice was quiet, steady. "An apology doesn't undo this, Sergeant." Cortez nodded once. "No," she said, "it doesn't." The handcuffs came off with a final metallic click. Teriq rubbed his wrist slowly, the red marks already forming where the metal had dug in. His eyes never left Rose. Sarah carried her over, and Teriq dropped to his knees, arms open. Rose collapsed into him, her small body shaking with sobs as she buried her face in his shoulder. "I'm okay, baby," he whispered, his voice breaking slightly. "I'm okay." Rose clung to him like he might disappear. "They hurt you, Daddy." "I'm okay," he repeated, holding her tighter. Cortez turned sharply to Hayes, her voice commanding. "You're on administrative leave pending investigation. Badge and weapon." Hayes' face went pale. "Sergeant, now!" The crowd watched in silence as Hayes unclipped his badge with trembling hands and placed it in Cortez's palm, then his sidearm, his holster. The humiliation was visible, written across his face alongside simmering anger. Palmer looked away. Cortez turned back to the family, her tone softer but still formal. "Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez, I am deeply sorry for what happened here today. This should never have occurred." Teriq stood slowly, lifting Rose with him. She wrapped her arms around his neck and wouldn't let go. He looked at Cortez, then at the cameras still recording, then back at the sergeant. "Sorry isn't enough," he said quietly, but every word carried weight. "My daughter just watched her father get handcuffed because of the color of his skin. That's not something an apology fixes." Cortez nodded once, her jaw tight. "You're right. It's not." Sarah stepped beside Teriq, her hand on his back. "We'll be filing a lawsuit." "That's your right," Cortez said. The family turned and walked away, together, past the crowd, past the cameras, past the officer who had tried to tear them apart. Within 48 hours, the footage had 15 million views. Within a week, they filed a federal civil rights lawsuit. But Rose stopped asking to go to the park, and Teriq couldn't tell her the world was safe anymore, because he didn't believe it either.